Soft piano and wind sounds fade in. The screen shows snowy mountains, empty highways, and flickering streetlights. In the heart of Montana, where winter winds carve through the mountains like sharp knives, stood a small roadside inn called Turner Haven. It wasn't fancy, just 8 cozy rooms, a stone fireplace, and the warm smell of cinnamon and coffee that always lingered in the air. The inn belonged to Margaret Turner, a 58-year-old widow who had spent her entire life taking care of others. After her husband passed away 5 years ago, she ran the lodge alone, cleaning, cooking, fixing broken pipes, and making sure every traveler who stopped by felt at home. That night, the weather had turned brutal. A snowstorm unlike any seen in decades slammed across Montana. The local news warned everyone to stay indoors. Visibility near zero, temperatures below -15. Margaret looked out her frosted window and sighed. The roads were empty. She turned the sign on the door to closed and was about to head upstairs when bang, bang, bang. A desperate knock echoed through the freezing wind. She hesitated, then opened the door. And there stood a group of shivering strangers. There were 20 of them, men and women, all dressed in expensive coats, clutching suitcases and phones that had long lost signal. Their breath turned to mist as they spoke. "Please, ma'am, our cars slid off the highway. We've been walking for nearly a mile. Can we stay here for the night?" Margaret's eyes widened. She only had 8 rooms, and most were already closed off to save heating costs. But when she looked at their faces, pale, exhausted, and frightened, she didn't think twice. "Of course," she said softly. "Come inside before you freeze." She helped them out of their wet coats, guided them to the fire, and handed them mugs of steaming cocoa. The guests thanked her again and again, offering cash, but she waved it off. "We'll figure that out later," she smiled. "For now, you all just need to stay warm." As the fire crackled, the group began talking. Margaret soon realized these weren't ordinary travelers. They were millionaires, investors, tech founders, entrepreneurs, who had been traveling from San Francisco to Bozeman for a private conference. Their private jet had been diverted due to the storm, and when they tried to drive the rest of the way, the blizzard trapped them. One of them, Eli Stanton, a well-known venture capitalist, looked around the humble lodge and smiled. "Ma'am," he said, "you've got more heart in this tiny place than most 5-star hotels." Margaret laughed gently. "Kindness keeps people warmer than money ever could." The group sat in silence for a moment, the crackle of wood filling the air. Outside, the storm howled, but inside, something rare was happening. Strangers from 2 different worlds, one of luxury, one of simplicity, sat together like family. Margaret cooked them soup with what little she had left in the pantry, carrots, potatoes, and beans. They ate like it was the best meal in the world. Later that night, as everyone drifted to sleep under old quilts, Eli watched Margaret quietly place an extra log on the fire. She didn't rest. She made sure no one was cold. He whispered to another guest, "She reminds me of my mother." Before we had anything, morning came. The storm had stopped, and sunlight glistened on the fresh snow outside. Margaret stepped out with her broom to clear the porch, and froze. The narrow road leading to her inn was packed with luxury cars, over 150 of them. Bentleys, Teslas, Mercedes, even a few Rolls-Royces. TV vans, drones, reporters. She blinked in disbelief. "What on earth?" Before she could ask, Eli walked up beside her, smiling. "Ma'am," he said, "you're trending on social media. Last night we posted about you, how you took in 20 strangers and refused payment. The world fell in love with your story." Within hours, hundreds of people had driven there to thank her, to meet her, to help her. Margaret stood speechless as cameras flashed and people cheered. Some handed her flowers, others simply hugged her. But Eli had something else in mind. He handed her a small envelope. Inside was a deed and a check for $2 million. "This," he said, "is for a new lodge. A bigger one. You gave us warmth when we had nowhere to go. It's time someone returned that kindness." Margaret's hands trembled. Tears filled her eyes. "I didn't do it for money," she whispered. Eli smiled. "That's exactly why you deserve it." Over the next year, Turner Haven became one of the most famous lodges in Montana, not because of its luxury, but because of its story. People from all over the world came to visit the inn that kindness built. Margaret hired locals, expanded rooms, and made sure every traveler, rich or poor, had a warm place to stay. Reporters still called her a hero. But she always said the same thing. I just opened a door. God did the rest. A soft piano returns. Snow gently falls again on the screen. They say miracles come in many forms, sometimes in money, sometimes in fame. But for Margaret Turner, it came in the form of a knock on a cold, stormy night, a simple act of kindness that changed her life and reminded the world that compassion still exists, even in the smallest corners of America. Screen fades to black. Text appears, inspired by true events. Kindness is the greatest investment.